Look, another day, another Detroit Pistons video, but when you wait 9 months for your team to play NBA basketball again, and we could probably stretch that to more like 11 months because the couple of months prior to the cancellation, which probably came at a good time because we were fielding a team with John Henson and Brandon Knight in 2020. They were starting John Henson and Brandon Knight. So there's a reason I'm making so many Detroit Pistons videos is because pretty much any glimmer of hope is better than watching Brandon Knight and John Henson play on your team in the year 2020. But anyways, apart from the sad story that was the Detroit Pistons in the 2019-20 season, we're looking ahead to next year, and I think we just got another glimpse of hope, and all of a sudden, the future of the Pistons is looking brighter than it probably has in a decade. And that comes from Sekou Doumbouya just absolutely tearing up the Knicks. And he wasn't alone. Killian Hayes had a really good game, I think, as well, although his shot wasn't falling, and we'll talk about that because he takes some questionable shots. Sekou Doumbouya was clearly the focus of the Pistons and clearly the focus of this game because dropping 23 points in about 20 minutes. Dwayne Casey is another different story because why he waited till the third quarter to put him back in after he was torching it up in the first quarter. He had two players run for him and he made 2 buckets. So I don't know why it took 2 quarters for him to get back in the game, but when he got back in the game, he started tearing it up again. So hopefully this is enough for Casey to finally give him some significant rotation minutes because we clearly saw that he's more than just a project player. His 3-point shot looked polished. He looked good getting to the rim. He showed off a spin move or two. His layups were good. He was finishing through contact. He was drawing contact, which is really impressive. That's something that normally takes a few years to learn, and that's always the sign of a good scorer. All the best scorers draw contact. You can look through the whole league. They always get to the free throw line, and that's what Sekou was doing. So if he can start doing that in his second year, that's the sign of things to come. Defensively as well, he's not terrible. He makes a few questionable reads, and you can see sometimes he looks lost out there, which might be the reason Casey doesn't put him in. But at the same time, his offense was so good today that you have to think if he gets a significant run of game time, which we even saw going back to last year, he had a 10-game stretch or so, pretty much the first 10 games he played, but he was really good in that 10-game stretch and had a few really good games. But his game looks even more polished since then. That's just a huge thing to take out of this game. If you take out anything from this game, it's the play of Sekou Doumbouya. He was fantastic. And let's talk about Hayes because people are going to look at his 6 points, 4 assists, I think 5 rebounds off the top of my head. And I'm pretty sure he missed like 9 shots. I don't imagine his shooting percentages were good at all. But let's talk about him because he was fantastic passing. He probably created about 9 or 10 open shots. 2 times, I think the players stepped out of bounds or traveled, maybe 3 times where he created an open shot. There were a couple of open misses as well. He could have easily had 8 to 10 assists, and the team looked better when he was on the floor, which is saying something because the team was playing all right, but the team looked better when he was on the floor as opposed to D Rose, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's a better player already, but he just already had that presence as a floor general. He was demanding the ball. He was moving the ball at all times. He did take some bad shots, which we got to talk about. His shot selection is questionable. I think he's got a nice shot. He's the designated free throw shooter in the starting lineup for technical fouls, so he must have shown that in practice that he can knock those down. And you can see that it's a pretty fluid shot. The thing is, he likes to take step backs, he likes to take shots off the dribble, and it might be a matter of him just kind of forming a partnership with Blake Griffin, who can go into the paint and hopefully kick it out to Hayes and get him a few easier looks because he's taking a lot of tough looks when he doesn't need to. We don't need him to do that. I mean, it's preseason, so maybe they've just told him, get out all the bad shots you want, see what's going to fall, see what you think you're capable of doing when the NBA season comes around. That's a possibility. So it's not like drastic. You look at his shot form, it's not broken. And one thing to keep in mind as well, I would rather him miss threes and miss jumpers, but actually be able to get separation on those shots than just not get separation at all. That's a bigger issue in my opinion than Hayes having trouble finding his jumper early on. The fact that he's already getting separation in just his second preseason game is really promising. He's finding plenty of separation on those step backs, on those little dribble handoffs, on a number of things, and that's more impressive than anything, and that's what's going to hold weight when his jumper finally comes through, and that's what's going to be more important. But like I said, his passing was great. He was finding players in the pick and roll. He's got a nice little pick and pop thing going with Blake Griffin, which I want to see even more. He's finding shooters in the corner. He's getting penetration and kicking out to shooters. He got to the rim a couple of times. He only made one bucket at the rim, but he still looks nice getting to it. And defensively, he was really good as well. He got a couple of steals, a couple of deflections, and locked up on a couple of possessions. He was pretty much really good overall. I think Killian Hayes showed a lot of promise in this game, was significantly better than last game, and that's all you can hope for. It's just really exciting to see him and Sekou, the partnership they can form, the two best French players of all time. Sorry, Tony Parker, step aside. We've got a new duo in town, and it's Hayes and Doumbouya, and they look incredibly promising. In terms of the other rookies, Saddiq Bey had a quieter game today. I mean, he was great the other day, so what can you expect? You can't expect him to be great every game. I still want to see him in the rotation getting 15 to 20 minutes a night. Isaiah Stewart came in and just showed that energy that he has. I really want to see him more in the rotation because Plumlee or Okafor aren't doing enough to me to suggest they need to be getting the minutes over Stewart. They might be more polished. They might be slightly better. I would say they're better at the moment, but they're not so much better that I would take them over Stewart when you consider the upside Stewart has, and we already really know what Plumlee and Okafor are. I thought Okafor might have had a bit of room for upside, but he just doesn't look very good, does he? In terms of other things to note, I think Josh Jackson was really impressive, showed some things on the defensive end of the floor, but more importantly, he was knocking down his three-point shots. He hit 3 threes. He stepped on the line on 1 3 that he drilled as well, so he could have easily had 4 threes and looked really good doing so. His three-point mechanics look really nice, and if he can start getting to the rim as well and showing that explosiveness that he had back in his days in college, then all of a sudden we might have a steal. The only thing I'm really worried about now is Jeremy Grant, because the thing is, he's going to be a solid three-point shooter. He's going to be a good defender. I thought he might have shown some more signs, given the opportunity to get to the rim, given the opportunity to isolate himself and to make more plays, but he just doesn't look that capable of doing that, and that's a bit concerning when you paid him $20 million a year. The reality is, someone of his defensive ability, versatility, and ability to knock down threes, that's probably 12 to 15 at the very least, but it might be an overpay. Pistons had the money to overpay. I'm not too worried, but at the same time, I would have expected to see a little bit more in preseason in terms of him creating his own shot. Sekou looks far more competent creating his own shot. Even Saddiq Bey's done more creating his own shot in the first couple of games they've played than Grant, and that's a bit concerning. But at the very least, he's going to be a good 3-and-D guy, and he's still going to be a good locker room guy. So I'm not too worried, but yeah, I was hoping to see some flashes of upside, but everything I've seen suggests that he might have hit his peak, and that's a very solid NBA player, but I was hoping for some upside. I don't think it's coming at this point in time. Anything else to note? Blake Griffin looks fine again. He's knocking down a couple of threes. He's not doing a ton. He doesn't need to do a ton. I'm a bit more keen on trading Blake now because we've seen so much from the rookies that they need their game time. If Sekou continues to do this, we need to find a home for Blake because he needs to be starting if he continues this way. I'm not saying he's going to because he's had his inconsistencies over last year and already this year. But if he does anything like this in the next couple of games, it's pivotal that we find Blake a new home because Sekou needs to be finding himself getting significant minutes in the lineup. And the only way to do that is probably to ship off Blake. And I think if he stays healthy for 20 or so games, like I've mentioned, we're going to get a fine return. We're not going to probably get a negative return like you would have got last year when he was injured. I think he's done enough. He's already shown that he's looking pretty good. And come the regular season, he's going to have a higher usage rate. He's going to look solid. And teams are probably going to bite if they want to get an extra piece and look to contend. So I'm not too worried about that. I just think it's sooner rather than later that we want to get Sekou into the starting lineup, given how good he played and given how good he looked on both ends of the floor. That's the only thing to note about Blake. D-Rose as well, seeing as Killian Hayes already looks great in my opinion. I don't know if I missed anything, but the major things to take out of this game, Sekou was amazing. I think Killian Hayes was great, to be honest. He looked like a floor general already. His defense was great. He made some fantastic reads and passes, cross-court passes, passes out of the pick and roll, pick and pop, doing everything in terms of passing. His shot's going to come. He's getting the separation. He's getting to the rim a couple of times a game. He's doing everything that you want from a rookie point guard, apart from getting those shots to drop. That's going to come. I'm not concerned at all. I've seen enough from Hayes to suggest he's going to be really good, and that's really exciting. So that's great. Josh Jackson looks like he could turn out to be a bit of a steal. Saben Lee looks solid. Everything looks pretty solid about this Pistons team, and I'm pretty convinced. You just have to look at the fact that they were playing 19-year-olds against the Knicks in the fourth quarter, the Knicks starting lineup. The Knicks actually lost grounds with the Pistons rookies, guys like Sekou, Hayes, Stewart, Bey, and Magruder was the starting five, and they lost ground on that starting five with their established guys like Randall, Barrett, Robinson, Payton all playing. So that just suggests to me that this team and these rookies can already hold up against an NBA level starting five. It might be the Knicks, but still, it's an NBA level starting five nonetheless. And they looked very impressive in that last quarter. So there's a lot to take out from this game. And I think the Detroit Pistons team looks more promising by the day. And that's pretty good. That's a reason I had to make another video because, as I've said, we've been starved of Detroit basketball for like 9 months, and you can't even really count last year because last year was absolutely abysmal. All of their players were injured, and we had to watch guys like Brandon Knight and John Henson. So if I need to make 10 Detroit videos to get that out of my system, that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. If you did make it to the end of the video and you liked it, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. That would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, I'll catch you next time. Bye.